Borthakur IAS Academy, an endeavor of excellence.
Borthakur IAS Academy.
Hello everyone, welcome to Borthakur's IAS Academy, Northeast's premier institute for UPSC, APSC and NPSC preparations. I'm your friend Atrey, and today I'm here with another segment of Current Affairs 365 dated 19th of June 2021. This is your one-stop solution for any news and updates which will help you to prepare for your civil services examination, and along with that it is also going to be beneficial for any other Assam state government services. So don't forget to like and share this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also follow us on Facebook as well as Instagram. So the first news of the day is about herbicide tolerant BT cotton. It will be tagged under GS paper 3 related to the topic Science and Technology. This is in news because the illegal cultivation of HTBT cotton has seen a huge jump as the sale of illegal seed packets has more than doubled from around 30 lakhs last year to 75 lakhs in 2021. BT cotton, we all know that it is the only variety which has been approved by the central government for commercial cultivation in our country. And this has also been genetically modified to produce an insecticide which will combat the cotton bollworm, which is a common pest for cotton crops. HTBT variety, it adds another layer of modification, which makes the plant resistant to the herbicide known as glyphosate. And but it has not been approved by the regulators yet. And there is a fear that glyphosate are they have some carcinogenic effect, which causes cancer. And also unchecked spread of herbicide resistance to the nearby plants, they can lead to creation of a variety of superweeds through pollination. Why is this HTBT cotton variant useful? Why it is important to use this variant even after the regulators have not been, not provided any approval for the same? First is that it saves cost, because around 2 rounds of weeding is required for BT cotton and there is shortage of labor right now. This HTBT variant, it simply requires only 1 round of glyphosate spraying, and also no weeding is required. This saves around 7,000 to 8,000 rupees per acre for the farmers. And second most important point is that the World Health Organization also has said that it does not cause cancer, and scientists are in favor of this crop. So that's why it is favorable that HTBT cotton variant should be released. It should be made available in market easily, so that no illegal sale takes place in our country. But the government still has withheld its approval for allowing the sale. And as it is not approved by the Genetic Engineering Appraisal Committee, this is the main reason why illegal sales are still taking place in our country's market, right? The farmers here are at risk with such illegal cotton seed sale, as there is no accountability of the quality of seed. It pollutes the environment, and also the industry is losing the legitimate seed sale, and government loses revenue, in terms of tax collection. So these are the problems which are related to illegal sale of HTBT. Now coming to the Genetic Engineering Appraisal Committee, which has not allowed the legal sale of HTBT variant in our Indian markets. This committee, it functions under the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, and its main responsibility is to check the appraisal of activities involving large-scale use of hazardous microorganisms. Along with that, it also takes care of the recombinants in research and industrial production from environmental angle. And this committee is also responsible for the appraisal of proposals which are related to release of any genetically engineered organisms and products into the environment, including experimental field trials. Secondly, we have about Antonio Guterres, the second term UN Secretary General. United Nations General Assembly has appointed Antonio Guterres as the 9th UN Secretary General for a second term, which will begin from January 2022 and will end in the year 2026. India has also expressed its support for the re-election of Antonio Guterres as the UN chief for the second time. And about Antonio Guterres, he took oath of office on 1st of January 2017, and his first term ends on 31st of December 2021. He has served as the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees for a decade from June 2005 to December 2015, and he was also the former Prime Minister of Portugal. Under the United Nations Charter, the Secretary General is appointed by the General Assembly upon recommendation of the Security Council, and each Secretary General has the option of a second term if they can garner enough support from the member states. Guterres was elected after a reformed selection process that included a public informal dialogue session in the General Assembly. It involved the civil society representatives, and they aimed at ensuring transparency and inclusivity. The Charter of United Nations is the founding document of the United Nations. It was signed on 26th of June 1945. UN can take action on a wide variety of issues due to its unique international character. Okay, and the powers are vested in its charter, which is considered as an international treaty. Then the General Assembly, it occupies a central position as the chief deliberative, policy-making and representative organ of the United Nations, and it is composed of all 193 members of the UN, which provides a unique forum for multilateral discussion. The General Assembly also plays a significant role in the process of standard setting and codification of international law. Now, coming to the Security Council, it was established by the UN Charter in the year 1945 and has the primary responsibility of maintaining international peace and security. Security Council has 15 members, and there are 5 permanent members. They are the United States, the Russian Federation, France, China, and the United Kingdom. The non-permanent members of the Security Council are elected for a term of 2 years, and recently India has been elected as a non-permanent member. Now, this news is one of the most important news for the day. It is about the Maiden Indian Navy European Union Naval Force IN UNIFOR exercise, which is being conducted in Gulf of Aden. So this can be a question for your prelims. Maiden Indian Navy European Union Naval Force exercise conducted in Gulf of Aden. The participants along with Indian Navy are the naval forces from Italy, Spain and France. The main aim behind this exercise is to enhance and hone the war-fighting skills and ability as an integrated force, which will promote peace, security and stability in the maritime domain. UNIFOR and the Indian Navy, they converge on multiple issues including counter-piracy operations and protection of vessels deployed under the Charter of World Food Programme. The two navies, they also have regular interactions through shared awareness and deconfliction meetings, which are held annually at Bahrain. SHADE is an international operational counter-piracy platform which is convened in Bahrain. Okay, and it also underscores the shared values in ensuring freedom of seas and commitment to an open, inclusive and a rule-based international order. Some major Indian maritime exercises of India includes SLINEX with Sri Lanka, then GIMEX with Japan, Indra with Russia, Samudra Shakti with Indonesia, SIMBEX, Singapore, and Malabar exercise with Japan and the United States of America. The next news is about consistently rising sea level. Recently, a study has projected that sea levels, it will rise around Lakshadweep Islands due to the impact of global warming. Lakshadweep is India's smallest union territory, which is an archipelago consisting of 36 islands with an area of 32 square kilometers. Now, what is sea level rise? It is an increase in the sea level of world's ocean due to effects of climate change, especially global warming. It is induced by 3 primary factors. They are thermal expansion, melting glaciers, and loss of ice sheets in Greenland and Antarctica. The sea level is primarily measured using satellite laser altimeters. Okay. Now let us take a detailed look at the 3 primary vectors. When water heats up, it expands, and about half of the sea level rise over the past 25 years, they are attributed to warmer oceans simply occupying more space. This is all about thermal expansion. Then coming to melting of glaciers, higher temperatures which are caused by global warming, they have led to greater than average summer melting of large ice formations like the mountain glaciers. Okay. And this has also resulted in diminished snowfall due to later winters and earlier springs. This has created an imbalance between the runoff and ocean evaporation, which has caused the sea level to rise. Then loss of Greenland and Antarctic ice sheets. It is same as with the case of mountain glaciers. Increased heat has caused the massive ice sheets over Greenland and Antarctica to melt more quickly and also move more quickly into the sea. The global sea level has been rising over the past century, and the rate has accelerated in the recent decades. The average global sea level has risen from like around 8.9 inches between 1880 to 2050, and this rate is much faster than in the previous 3000 years. Okay. And also the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change has released a special report on ocean and cryosphere in a changing climate in 2019, and this has underlined the changes that are taking place in oceans, glaciers and ice deposits on land and sea. Coming to the regional scenario, sea level rise is actually not uniform across the world, and regional rise can be higher or lower than the global level, okay, due to some subsidence, then upstream flood control, erosion, regional ocean currents and many other factors. What are the main consequences of sea level rise? First is coastal flooding. Globally, around 8 of the world's 10 largest cities are near a coast which is threatened by coastal flooding. Then destruction of the coastal biodiversity. It is a major concern, okay, because it can cause destructive erosion, wetland flooding, aquifer and agricultural soil contamination with salt, and this can result in lost habitat for biodiversity. Storm surges. Higher sea levels are coinciding with more dangerous hurricanes and typhoons, which are leading to loss of life as well as property. Then flooding in the low-lying coastal areas is forcing people to migrate to higher ground, which is causing displacement and in turn a refugee crisis worldwide. It also has a negative impact on infrastructure. Prospect of higher coastal water levels threatens the basic services such as internet access, okay. And finally, it is also having a negative impact on tourism and military preparedness. They are negatively affected because of an increase in the sea level rise. The necessary steps which can be taken to tackle this problem includes relocation. Many coastal cities have planned to adopt relocation as a mitigation strategy. Then, for example, we can take the consider the Kiribati Island, which has been planned to shift to Fiji, while capital of Indonesia is being relocated from Jakarta to Borneo. Building of sea wall is another option. Indonesia's government has launched a coastal development project called Giant Sea Wall or Giant Garuda in 2014, which is meant to protect the city from floods. Now, these kind of questions can come as objective type in prelims, okay, about Giant Garuda. Then building enclosures. Researchers have proposed the Northern European Enclosure Dam, which encloses all of the North Sea to protect 15 countries from rising seas. Now, coming to the vulnerability of India, India's 7,516 kilometer long coastline includes around 5,400 kilometers of coastline on the mainland and around 2,000 kilometers on the islands, which belongs to 9 states and 4 union territories. The coastline accounts for about 90% of the country's trade, and it spans 3,331 coastal villages and around 1,200 islands. Okay, so India has to take some concrete steps in order to control the rising sea levels, right? And here, if we talk about India's efforts, then we can mention Coastal Regulation Zone. The coastal areas of seas, bays, rivers, creeks and backwaters which get influenced by tides up to 500 meter from the high tide line and the land between the low tide line, they are declared as the Coastal Regulation Zone in 1991. The latest regulation also takes into account the rising sea levels due to global warming. Then the National Action Plan on Climate Change, which was launched in 2008 by the Prime Minister's Council on Climate Change. It aims at creating awareness among the representatives of the public, then different agencies of the government, scientists, industry and communities on the threat which is being posed by climate change and the steps that can be taken to counter it. So this was all for today. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please like and share, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. I'll see you all again tomorrow with another session of Current Affairs 365 only on Bhattakur's IAS Academy, Northeast's premier institute for UPSC, APSC and NPSC preparations. Till then, take care, keep learning. Bye-bye.
বৰঠাকুৰ IAS একাডেমি প্ৰস্তুতি আৰু অধ্যয়নৰ নিৰ্ভৰযোগ্য ঠিকনা
বৰঠাকুৰ IAS Academy